I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. And today we're going to talk about ethical investing. And before you think that's going to be boring, we're also going to talk about mushroom coffee and who knew that was going to happen. So say hello to Clark Lunt. Enjoy the conversation, and I'll see you on the other side. Is that Bullet coffee? Are you super healthy coffee man, or is that Cremora?
I want to give you the right answer, but I only give the wrong answer. You know what? I was talking to my guy at the bank yesterday, and he had the mushroom coffee where you just have the hot water and you pour it in there. Is that what you use?
No, but I got sent some as an influencer because people watch my socials, and I haven't tried it yet because I'm nervous about it. Tell me about it. Did you try it?
I'm going to try it because, I drink about two cups a day, and I'm like, I've just kind of switched to doing like half calf or do decaf, like one decaf, one normal, to kind of not like load up on caffeine. But the mushroom stuff, it doesn't have any caffeine. I don't know what it has in it, but I'm assuming it's healthier. So I don't have any right over there. So I would like for you to tell me how you like it.
Not giving me enough confidence to try it. Hang on a second. I'm going to go grab it off of the counter so I can show it to you. Because
I think while you're over there, just fire it up. Just get some hot water and we'll share a cup together. Share a cup of Joe. Yeah, I hear you.
Then I've already stopped coffeeing for the day. So I'm not
Okay.
gonna put it back on. But
Yeah,
see,
that's it. That was the same stuff. That's
I
it.
wonder if he got sent a free bag too from these people to try it. It says it's more than coffee, delivers calm energy. That I could maybe use calm energy that promotes focus, productivity, adrenal health, and happiness. Oh, this is promising happiness.
I need all four of those. So
And our ingredients have been studied, and they enhance brain function, boost immunity, and give balanced energy that keeps you shining all day long.
there you go. Sounds like I need to go get a side hustle and sell Rise coffee.
I legit should have been reading this package before. It says there's 4 kinds of mushrooms in here. We have cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, shiitake, turkey tail, and king trumpet. It says drink daily. Over time, the adaptogens, the hell is an adaptogen, in our blend will balance your body and mind. This feels very complicated, but okay, now that I've also...
I'm going to get it.
It's your daily dose of magic. I think that belongs with your sign on the wall.
Yeah, that daily dose of magic, right? It's like, is it RYZE? Rise?
I'm advertising them, and I haven't tried it yet. Y'all, I'm not responsible if this is terrible. They send it to me for free. I reckon I have to try it now, though I've talked about it.
You gotta do it. I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna try it.
Right, so I'll try it, and you try it, Clark, and then we'll make an Instagram post, and we'll compare our opinions on Rise mushroom coffee. But I don't eat mushrooms because I hate the taste of them, and I'm always worried that I'm going to get the toadstool. And so I tell my friends and family, in the event that they eat toadstools, I'll be the one left able to call the paramedics, and that's why I don't eat mushrooms. It's my service to humanity, but they don't believe me.
That is a logical way to look at it. I've never really looked at mushrooms like that, so I tip my cap to you.
You got to read enough Hans Christian Andersen and Grimm's Brothers to understand why toadstools might not be your friends.
Gotcha. I'll have to look into. I've got lots of things to look into already. We haven't even started yet, so I like this.
First time I've mentioned Hans Christian Andersen podcast. It is in season 11. We get to very dark fairy tales.
There you go. Love it.
All right, so welcome to the show. Why don't you tell my audience who you are, where you're located, what you do in and around real estate? Because now my audience is wildly confused about what's happening in this episode.
Well, after a long career in the coffee mushroom sales business, it didn't work out. So, no, my name's Clark, and I am sitting in usually sunny Tampa, Florida. It is not sunny. I'm wearing this shirt today, which if you're on YouTube, you can see it. I am speaking into existence, Leigh, my warm weather necessity, because we are freaking out here down in Florida because of the fact that it is like 45 degrees. So,
and I think that's a gorilla wearing.
It's a gorilla with like the little, the tube thing that the little kids wear. So,
well, I thought it was doing something else to a flamingo until you sat back a little bit. So I'm very grateful to learn it's not something that's unsafe for children.
That's an after 5 podcast, and it's still only 12 o'clock. So I kept that. That's still on the shelf for right now.
I mean, I do have the big E on my podcast because it has the word shit in the title, which as a middle-aged mom, I kind of felt like it was edgy to have the
It
E
is edgy.
explicit box, but then I have some very good church friends that find it to be a tacky that I did that. And I said, well, I was 11 years younger when I started the podcast, so I'm a little tackier then than I am now.
Right,
I feel
right.
now, so who cares?
Well, you've got one fan down in Tampa that likes it. It's very, it kind of draws you to it. Like, oh, that's interesting. What? Tell me more, right? Which is the goal, right?
And isn't that real estate? It pretty much is always a tell me more business, which is what we love about it.
Exactly, exactly.
So
So
when did you get into real estate?
I got into real estate my senior year of college. I lived with 7 other guys that was just owned by a landlord, and it was just exactly what you think it would be. It was messy and sloppy, and there was dogs everywhere, and we had parties and stuff. But I remember, Lee, when I finished the year and I went to go give the deposit back, I actually had a real conversation with the landlord, and I said, I started doing the math in my head. I'm like, we're paying like $2,400 a month for this place, right? And I'm looking at this piece of crap house we just stayed in for a year and messed up, and we were part of the destruction of it. So I don't want to say we weren't, just a little bit. And I asked him, I said, what's going on here? And he goes, yeah. I go, how much did you pay for this? And he's like, I paid like 80 grand for it. And I was like, 80 grand? This guy's making 2,400 bucks a month. He doesn't really have to fix stuff because we just made a deal with them. And it kind of like got my wheels spinning. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is doing really well. So for the next, I graduated in 2005, so I'm 41. And for the next probably 10 years, I was in W-2 sales, and I just started buying and house hacking. So I was just essentially would buy a house. I'd get some roommates. I'd live for very, very little, maybe 500 to 700 bucks a month. I'd do it again, rinse and repeat. I did it 3 or 4 times before my girlfriend at that time was like, we got to kick out the roommates. I can't do this anymore. And I pushed back. I was like, come on, but we're missing out on like 500 bucks a month from a roommate. And she said, I don't care. And so she ended up becoming my wife, now ex-wife. So anyways, long story short, I got into it through just buying slowly boring vanilla ice cream and, kind of learning along the way how to manage tenants and roommates. And then that propelled me in to 2015. I went full time into wholesaling and flipping. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 10 years or so with a few different kind of side items. But building the rental portfolio has definitely been my kind of passion and still is. And that's kind of where I like to talk about, for wealth creation, because there's just so much negativity in the market right now. There's so much doom and gloom. I feel like we're a little bit 2009-ish, and people are sitting on the sidelines. So that's kind of been my passion over the last year, is talking about like how we can actually go through and create freedom, create financial freedom, create freedom of time, create freedom of career through buying and investing in real estate.
Okay, so we're just going to have to land on the fact for a minute that your girlfriend was willing to live with you in a house with other people. That's crazy talk. So you were really committed to the idea of house hacking.
Lee, I'm 41. I would have a roommate, right? I live in a 3-bedroom townhouse. It's sad to say I'd probably have a room. I don't have any kids, right? So I would probably have a roommate in here for 1,200 bucks if my girlfriend now allowed it. So I hope she's not listening.
Luckily, there are women in your lives to say, dial it back a little bit. But to talk about those college houses, that was the earliest of the idea of house hacking. And it's been going on since there have been kids living in colleges, rent out the spare bedrooms.
Of course.
But it never got looked at as a viable business model except for
Right.
the parents of these properties. And in fact, one of the first investment properties I ever sold was at UNC Charlotte. It was a
Okay.
4-bedroom condo in a neighborhood that was full of college students. And because it
Yep.
was so cheap, it also had several Section 8 voucher people in there because it's an inexpensive
Right.
property. And the guy that bought it for his daughter told her, you can let the boyfriend live here as long as he has his own room. And let's just be honest.
Right.
And he
Wink, wink.
manages the other roommates. So if he will recruit roommates and manage them, he can live here for free.
I
So
love
they
it.
found up the 4-bedroom, had the other bedrooms rented out, paying for the whole place. And then she was living with her boyfriend. He's now her husband, so they're totally legit now.
Oh,
After at the end of college, he sold that property because he felt like he was done with it. And then when I ran into him some time later, because they've remained good family friends, why did I ever sell that? I'm like, I know, dude,
Right.
because college properties never did appreciate for a long time. They all sat there churning out cash
Right.
because they were not really properties. They just never went anywhere until the markets went wild with COVID. And now that even the college properties have become harder to make numbers work on them, but they're still more viable than almost anything else. And so, how do you coach somebody that's getting into the space based on the numbers of today? How do you help them figure out the pathway when there is a lack of confidence in the market, which is kind of wild to me because we just don't have enough supply in the country for the size of the population that we have. It's a supply issue, not a market issue.
Right.
How do you coach people when you're getting them into the investment side?
I want to tackle one thing that you breezed over, and we need to make sure we understand. And that is, you said that this girl and her boyfriend lived in the condo together, right? In separate rooms. Wink, wink.
Separate rooms.
They made it.
Um,
What?
they were very wholesome, separate rooms.
Separate rooms. Wink, wink. They made it through college together. They lived together in college, and they actually made it all the way to the altar. That is way crazier than anything we're about ready to talk about,
And
in my
two
opinion.
beautiful kids too. Like they're the cutest
Unicorns.
you'll ever meet.
I think we should stop this podcast and just go interview them on how to make a family work, because that's going to be way more probably helpful to your
Oh, I
listeners.
can tell you how it works. She let him build a putting green in the backyard so he can go
Okay.
outside and putt one hole all the time, and the
Yeah.
kids can putt too, and he likes Star Wars, and she does hospice. So they're like they got all the pieces. It all works.
That's probably a different podcast for a different day, but also very important. Housing affordability is tough. I've listened to some of your podcasts, and you've said a couple times, you're like, the media is always pushing this agenda, and it's usually filled with a lot of garbage and whatnot. I like to say one thing, and it's easy for me to speak on it because I did it, right? Is that if you're complaining about housing affordability, if you're complaining about like, well, I want to buy my first house or my first rental, well, the easiest thing to do to buy your first rental is go buy a damn house and move into it, right? Like that is by far the easiest thing to do. And that's what I did. I bought a house, I moved into it, and I got a roommate, and I lived for not a lot of money, right? And then guess what? You fix it up a little bit. You paint the outside, you meet the neighbors, you kind of understand the market in terms of, hey, actually the townhouse next door, they're actually renting that out. Well, how much are they renting it for? It's probably just like your unit, right? So you get to kind of through osmosis almost understand the market, your immediate market, right? And then you can rinse and repeat. But let's say you already own a house and you're looking for your first like quote unquote real investment property. I think that people are so concerned with having like this perfect deal in this perfect neighborhood. And albeit I am totally against buying in C-class neighborhoods. Now, I've been buying real estate for 20 years, right? And so I have kind of progressed through my career where I've been able to see the results and reap the consequences of me buying in C-class areas. Okay. But it helped me to get to where I am today. And without buying those crappy $50,000, $100,000 houses in C-class areas, I would have never been able to learn and kind of grow. So just know that like if you are struggling, right, and you're trying to find something, even if you're renting, go on and just know that you can buy something and it doesn't have to have the white picket fence. You just need to go and find something that's somewhat safe that you feel like you can live in, even if it's grandma's house and grandma's carpet and the green tile in the bathroom. That's okay. You don't have to live there forever. But if you're not, Leigh, if you're not willing to like, if you just have to live in the coolest apartment, or if you have to live in the place that has the nice pool and the gym, that's fine, but you're stealing from your future by living, using it in the present, and you have no one to blame but yourself.
I like that, stealing from the future. That's a good phrase because I was thinking about this in a conversation with a friend yesterday. We were looking at those memes that roll around that a lot of Zoomers and millennials like to share.
Right.
Since you're an elder millennial, you know how your people
I'm an old millennial.
in the 50s, people could have a house and a car and send their
Right.
kids to college
Right.
on one income, and it's not fair.
Mhm.
And the reality is the house back then was 900 square feet, and it was 2
Right.
bedroom, 1 bath, and it didn't have cable, and it
Yeah.
didn't have internet, and you didn't have Starbucks every day. You didn't do
Right.
nails, you didn't have iPhones. So if you live like they lived in the 50s, you could probably afford
Right.
house, and especially when you dropped it in there and you breezed past it too. Got my house, got a roommate. I have found that as I talk to younger buyers now, their goal is living there by themselves and forgetting that getting a roommate can be the easiest way to get yourself over that first 2-year hump. Because buying
Right.
a property, the first 2 years are the hard ones as you adjust to a mortgage payment, the fact that repairs are going to come along. You're going to have
Always.
property tax increases. Insurance is, of course, the time bomb we all have right now. So you have these hiccups, but living with a roommate is how most young people used to get started. And now we've moved into this world of they want 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, hardwood floors, granite, let themselves perfect.
Right.
And if you can get away with not perfect right today, you can make your way towards it in the future. So I love this advice of just get yourself started, but also that comment about not putting yourself into an unsafe area.
Right.
We always advise our buyers just go call the sheriff's department, ask about a neighborhood. I don't
Yep.
know all the ins and outs of an area, but the sheriff's department does. Ask them.
Yeah. Or ask the neighbor to, like I'm not above just going and knocking on a few doors and just saying, hey, just thinking about maybe moving into the area. How do you feel about it? And the neighbors will tell
Right.
you it all.
Oh, they'll tell you more than you want to hear, and that's
Exactly.
good and bad. But we think about the implications of that are long term. We know that if you go back 20 years to your first purchase, don't you wish you'd have bought more houses at $80,000 20 years ago?
And I think about it every day, and it keeps me up at night, Lee.
And it's why my husband and I buy properties now. We're like, well, it might not be a perfect world and the numbers might not be perfect and the house might not
Right.
be perfect, but we know that 20 years from now, we'll be glad we made this purchase. Even though the markets may do this in the meantime, over 20 years, we're going to come out to the good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's definitely it's an excuse, right? It's like I hear sometimes I'll hear things where people say, "Well, I'm just not a roommate person. I like to live by myself." Well, I didn't want to live with a bunch of roommates. It's not like it's something that I had very few friends that I lived with, and back then we didn't have Facebook Marketplace and all these Facebook groups. So I had Craigslist, which is way shadier than Facebook Marketplace. Now you can go on and see their profile and see all that kind of good stuff. So it was way shadier on Craigslist. 25 roommates, Lee, is what I had. I counted it up one day, and probably 20 of those roommates throughout the years. Some of them were 3 months or 2 years or everything in between. There was waiters and bartenders and, all across the spectrum in terms of what they did. Never once did I really have like a super negative, like the stuff you'll hear on the news about like, them doing something destructive or something really negative. If they fell behind our rent, which they certainly did from time to time, I said, hey man, you need to pay or I need you out by the end of the month. And guess what? When they live with you, it's a lot harder for them to look you in the eye and not pay rent. And they just left, and we actually left probably on good terms because they didn't pay and they understood that I needed to have someone in that room. So it's something where if you're not willing to delay your gratification, if you're not willing to sacrifice just a little bit, right? Like I'm not using the third bedroom. I'm a single bachelor at 25 years old. I don't necessarily need like a separate office. Then if you're not willing to do small things like that, then you're just going to pay for it down the road.
Very true. And of course, you can outgrow the roommate and you might choose not to and be 40 years old and putting a roommate in because you're cash conscious and you get to make those choices when it's your house
Right.
as opposed to being the one who's always at somebody else's mercy, which I think is the biggest advantage of real estate, even though people like to say, oh, but you're just paying rent to the government, paying property taxes and the bank and blah, blah, blah. All right. So, yes, there are costs associated with the property, but you get the choices and you don't have that when it's not your property. So, always going to be trade offs in life. Now, let's talk briefly about wholesaling. Now, wholesaling, for those of y'all in the public, this is somebody talks to a person who owns a property and says, will you sell it to me for X dollars? And then they find another buyer who's willing to pay Y dollars for it and basically be the middleman to help that house go away. It gets a bad rap in the world because there are some shady wholesalers that lie to people. That happens in every profession. But I
Yep.
can also tell you, as a full-time practicing realtor, there are some houses that need to be done through wholesale because they're not in
Right.
retail condition.
Yep.
The property owner may have specific needs, and a quick off-market cash sale could be the best thing for their scenario. So there are situations where it can benefit the consumer. But I'll just add here, you need to know your state laws because some states like Kentucky have outlawed wholesaling. North Carolina does not have laws about wholesaling. So wherever you're located, make sure
Yep.
you know the laws before you look into this. And with that being said, why don't you talk to them a little bit about how you landed in the space, how you operate in it, and maybe some ways that you could spot an ethical wholesaler.
So if you're in real estate and you're listening to this podcast or watching it and thinking, man, I need some more Leigh Brown answers in my life. Well, guess what, friends? I have a new program that is launching right now called Answers.Real Estate, where I will give you every bit of insight I have to help you grow your real estate business, help you better respond to consumers, to provide a more excellent real estate experience so that the next time you land on crazy shit in real estate, you'll have a better solution to whatever you ran into. Answers.Real Estate. There are monthly plans available. You will love it. Get your coaching. Sign up with me today.
Oh, geez. Unethical wholesalers. I mean, I can't throw a dead cat without hitting 9 unethical wholesalers, whether they really mean to or not. Sometimes they're just ignorant of it. I did wholesaling kind of full time from 2015 to 2020. I learned a lot. It enables me. I did most of our marketing through direct to seller. So I wasn't one of those guys that just takes a deal that hits my inbox and mark it up and then try and resell it. Like I was in the trenches with these sellers sitting on the couch. I felt like I was a therapist, a psychologist. I can't tell you how many couches, dining room tables, places where there was hoarders, and I had to like move some space off the trash can in the garage so I could put my like iPad or whatever to be able to just stand there and have a conversation. And I think that the topic of this, or the name of the show, is crazy shit in real estate. And I could spend the next 3 hours telling you about all the bonkers stories I had to deal with just like crazy sellers. And it's not that they're crazy. It's just that they have challenges, right? Like they're real people. Like people, I feel like sometimes people just say, well, everyone that's going to do a sell to a wholesaler is just like some strung out drug addict with a needle in their arm, right? And that's so far from the truth, although there are some strung out drug addicts, but that's the minority for sure. But it enabled me to kind of really understand and grow as a person that has empathy, that has to be able to set boundaries to make sure that they understand what we're there to accomplish, but how we can help them out. And it got like there's so many great books that I've read, and how to win friends and influence people. Like before you become a wholesaler, go read that book by Dale Carnegie, and it really helps you to kind of shape the narrative. It's not about you and what price you need to buy it at, right? It's all about trying to help to understand, ask good questions, to understand if the seller truly needs your help, like you alluded to, if they're the houses that need wholesalers, or if they need to list with a realtor. And I was more than happy to let them know, hey, I can't tell you how bad of a fit I am for this house with you right now. And they laugh. They're like, because they're not expecting, they're expecting an offer, right? And I said, look, you have given, my favorite phrase, Leigh, is you have given me 0 reasons why you should ever sell this house to me at a discount. And then I shut up. And they laugh and they're like, yeah, you're right. And I said, great. I'm going to give you 2 referrals to realtors. I'm sure you've got a long list of realtors you can go to. Is there anything else I can help you with? Do you need a landscaper? Do you need this? Do you need that? But guess what? Like, I'm a big believer in karma, and that, they'll tell someone else about me, or I don't care. It doesn't even matter, right? But eventually, if you do that long enough, we only have one reputation. And I think that wholesaling tends to lend itself toward bending that reputation. There's a lot of easy times that you can bend your reputation. You mentioned unethical. How do we spot unethical wholesalers? Well, if they're telling you that they've bought this many houses and they are going to close on this date no matter what, right? But then they have all these things in the contract that let them get out of jail free. it's just highway robbery. And I have such a low, albeit I was one, I have a very low perception of wholesalers, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Well, I think you give away the biggest thing, that if you're in the public and you find yourself pinched and you need to sell, if you talk to a wholesaler who does not say to you, you can go the realtor route.
Right.
What that looks like. The ethical wholesalers I've talked to are really clear about, this is what it looks like with me. There is another pathway, so that the consumer has a full menu of choices. And that's good for the consumer to know that there's different
Of course.
pathways to go down, so they get to pick. And the person who says, nope, that doesn't work, that's too expensive, it's the worst way, only through me will you get anything, that's the person to run away from, because we're in a world where everything really has a gray shade to it. There is no 100% black and white to anything.
Right.
And we should always be saying, look, here's the spectrum. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And I love that you pointed that out, because if it's the best thing for that homeowner, that is your reputation in the community, and you're going to get a call somewhere else, and you don't
Yeah.
know who knows who, because their kids went to high school together, or they knew your mama at the church group, and we don't know all the connections people have, and we're never going to know them. So
Right.
that's reason enough to behave.
I'm going to give the listener a quick 3-step litmus test if you're a wholesaler. And I'm going to make it very easy. I took about 15 deals or 20 deals that I had done, and I asked, why did they sell to me? Okay. And I wrote it down. I usually wrote 2 things. So there's always more than one reason, right? But I noticed that there was a trend, and there's like 90%, 3 things. Ready? And it's very simple. They need to sell it fast. Okay. They need cash. Okay. And the condition is crappy. Okay. Now you need to check the boxes of 2. You don't have to check all 3, but you can't check 1, right? So let's just say they need cash. Like they need cash, but they have time, and they have a nice, well presented property. Realtor, right? It'll sell, right? Let's say that the property is crappy. It's been crappy for 20 years, right? Well, it may be crappy, but if they don't need cash and they have all the time and they can sit there for another 20 years, ding, 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 they don't need you, right? So a quick way to just like cut through everything to get right to it is like, I'm asking questions to see if they fit in any of those boxes. And if I can't check 2 out of 3 boxes, then I'm really trying to determine where I can help them in other areas or give them referrals and just pay it forward.
Which, frankly, that is the mark of an ethical investor, wholesaler, realtor, is asking questions, because you're not presetting their solution before you get to them. You're helping draw the information out so that you can then provide advice. And I think that's such a good life advice. Maybe all of us should ask more questions and stop
Always.
conclusion to the table first. Like, I was making a conclusion about the mushroom coffee till you it was. I started reading, so fine, I might give it a try. But it's about curiosity and not judgment.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now? You said you quit wholesaling in 2020. Are you primarily managing investments now, coaching investors? How are you operating your real estate pathway right this minute?
I'm kind of in the process of trying to take the next step. So I've built a few properties, in the process of creating a fund so that we could basically create like a debt fund so that we can go out and then lend to fix and flip type people or whatever that looks like. It's just kind of like the natural progression as you go through it. You'll see where everyone starts as a wholesaler, then they start taking some of the properties down themselves. And then, I started saying, well, we start building properties, and I'm like, wow, I don't really spend that much time on this. Like, I'm not worried about taking the drywall back in the kitchen and there's like old, pipes or old this. It's just, there's a piece of dirt. It's kind of, there's less that can go wrong, and it's more scalable, right? And it's just taken a lot of time for me to learn that. So I'm focusing now on, I think that in 2025, having access to capital is so key, right? During COVID, cash meant nothing, right? Realtors were telling me to F off when I said, hey, I've got cash and I'll give you an offer. And they're like, cool, join the club with the other 40 people calling me, right? Cash literally meant nothing. And they let me know that I meant nothing to them. So that's okay, right? But the tide has changed. Interest rates have gone up. People are pulling back. People are sitting on the sidelines. So I think having access to capital is a huge benefit right now to be able to come in and actually get some opportunities. I do think that there's going to be opportunities in multifamily. I think there's going to be opportunities in the development space. And that's where I want to start playing bigger. You said in 2009, I wish I would have bought more houses. I know that if I would, instead of buying a house a year, I bought a house in like 9, 10, 11, 12. I still own them, right? Which is cool, but it would have been a lot cooler if I owned 21 houses in 2009, right? But I didn't know then, what I know now. And I also didn't have the capital and the connections and the Rolodex, right? So I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I think 2025 is coming into an interesting space. I think there's opportunities, Leigh, but I need to go bigger, right? I need to be able to really kind of like keep flipping the penny over day after day a little bit more than I did in the past. And so that's where I'm hoping things are going to get. But yeah, I've been managing my rentals. I don't have a huge rental portfolio. There's maybe about 35 or 40 doors. But it's something that's taught me a lot. And I want the listener to take away something that's really important, is that when I was flipping, right? When you're flipping, you're typically flipping in like C neighborhoods. You're wholesaling in C neighborhoods, B minus. Sometimes you'll get the odd one that's like a B neighborhood, but for the most part, everyone's down there in the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, where there's more distressed opportunities. It just makes sense. But guess what you do? You're in there playing in the weeds with all the stuff in C class, and voila, there's like a house that already has a tenant, right? And it's messed up, but it's like, let me keep that one, right? A lot of flippers say, I want to buy 4. I want to flip 3 and keep 1. You hear that a lot, right? Well, they're just keeping the one that's in their same advertising, marketing channels. And you end up with all these dud C-class properties just because it was a good deal and you had a tenant that was just there and you didn't have to fix it up. And now, let's say 5, 6, 7 years later, I'm having to unwind those bad purchases through houses that I should have renovated better, houses that I shouldn't have bought in those neighborhoods. And I'm paying for it because the neighborhoods literally look just like they did 7 years ago. There's very few flipped houses. There's very few, new kind of cool Starbuckses at the end of the street. There's still the same grocery stores with the bars on it. And they weren't worth a lot 7 years ago, and they're not worth a lot today. Yes, they're worth more. And so it's been a big learning lesson, Leigh, to be able to unwind some of these bad purchases that were good, that I'm glad that I did them, but I wish I would have been more strategic.
Well, and some of that's your strategic partnerships. When you're keeping something as a rental, do you have a property manager who's going to take care of it so that you don't have to put any of your energy into it? And then you have to be willing to let go of a decision that wasn't perfect. I think that's a hard thing in investor world, is to say, okay, maybe I didn't buy that one correctly and I should go ahead and sell it, because there are investors that say,
Right.
hold it long enough, it will wind up being great. But at a certain point, cut bait and go move your money somewhere else, because it may work better somewhere else, because this is
Yeah.
not exact science. It's not perfect in anybody's imagination. And we have no idea really where the markets are going. I'm like you. I think we're going to see some choppy waters just because of the capital situation. And
Right.
a little bit choppier in 26 as consumer debt and the national debt are going to have a reckoning. So what's going to happen when the waters get choppy? Well, we'd like to be open to all the solutions for homeowners and for investors, which means if your capital is available, you might be able to help patch somebody out or patch
Yeah.
them through, and then everybody wins. And so there's a lot of different angles to consider here. And if it feels overwhelming, I got to remind y'all, you need to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think it's a basic investor book.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of adding How to Win Friends and Influence People as a way to talk to people in a way that is honoring of them, which is the hallmark of Dale Carnegie's program. So thank you for bringing that to the front of an investor conversation.
Yeah, it's funny how some of I went through my Audible. I do a book a month, right? And then I listen to a bunch of podcasts, yours being one of the top 5, of course, right? And one of the things that I noticed is that when I actually looked through all my Audible selections, the top like 5 or 8, none of them were real estate related. They're all, sales related, business related, mindset related, the 4 agreements, like just books that are like about life. And also too, I you can only read so many books about buying rental properties before I just want my eyes like fall out of my head. So, you tend to get a little bit of PTSD, but there's so many, if you're not like constantly pushing the boulder up the hill by educating yourself, and it's challenging, right? There's so much content. There's so many podcasts. There's so much YouTube. There's so much content. It's like, where do you even start? But there's no right or wrong way to start. You just need to start. Like, just go buy an Audible book on someone's real estate, how to get into investing. I don't care who it is. Anything is going to be better than just constantly talking about, I need to buy that book next week. My 2025 vision is to read 3 books. Go read the 3 books and stop writing it down so much.
Okay, so we actually do care which book you read. If it's Carlton Sheets, please don't do the Sheets method. Don't buy
Taking it back. I like it.
Please don't watch 3 a.m. telemercials and then call either one of us. I'm just going to speak on behalf of you, Clark. We don't need to talk to anybody else who watched infomercials. It's so exhausting because, to be honest, if you're reading about real estate investing, do a quick LinkedIn search of the author and see if they actually have any chops in real estate investing, because you can ingest a whole bunch of bad content and then 24 hours later, you'll wish you hadn't ingested it. It's real estate, food poisoning, and nobody wants to go through that.
You said it first. I do think it's good. And there's a million Facebook groups you can go on. If you want to do anything for free, just get on like real estate investor Facebook groups and then type in, hey guys, trying to get started, recommendations on books. You'll get a laundry list of all the books that you need, other than just going to ChatGPT or Google or whatever it is. So I totally am with you.
And then you can just lurk in those groups, by the way. If you're new to this, go lurk in your wholesaler and investor groups locally and find out who the players are. Find out what they're sharing, find out who is out there educating and mentoring, because you can find some amazing mentors in those groups. And you can also spot some really terrible sleazeballs. And then we recommend you stay away from the sleazeballs and look towards those who are willing to mentor so that you can create a different future through real estate, because it is possible. And yes, it's scary, but it's not a fear you can't overcome with education and with some discipline. So Clark, if somebody wants to reach out to you about what you're doing, what you're educating on, how is it best for them to connect with you?
I think the easiest thing is Leigh, we have myself and my partner, we have a podcast. It's called Burn Your Boat's Wealth. And I think that the easiest way to connect with us is to just, go on, your favorite podcast platform, YouTube, Apple, whatever, Spotify, and just go to Burn Your Boat's Wealth. And, you can do the same thing on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're on all the different socials. And, just shoot me a DM if you want to have a chat about anything. I live, breathe, and eat and dream about real estate. So I'm more than happy to try and walk you through any challenges you're facing. But yeah, just reach out to us via the podcast. And, I'd love to help anyone that I can, because I think it's just being able to talk to someone to like hear, maybe you have 1 or 2 challenges, just being able to get over those 2, to get over that one little hump to get started could mean the difference between you owning 22 houses or never even getting started.
And for the record, if you leave a 5-star review and make a little comment, Clark's going to get back to you faster. Saying it's a fast way to get the attention of the podcaster is a 5-star review.
Funny how that works. Yeah. The 1-star review, it takes me a while to get to the 1 stars. So, don't hold your breath on that, guys.
I mean, unless it's pertinent, in which case we're still going to wait to get back to you because we have to get our feelings fixed. Clark, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and bringing us some really good perspective and some good questions to ask. I appreciate your expertise.
Leigh, it's been a pleasure. I love it. I love your energy. Your energy is contagious, and keep on fighting the good fight.
Well, that's all we can do, right? We woke up today, we got things to do, and then apparently we're going to have to have a dose of magic. So I'll make a video for Instagram after I have a dose of magic, and we'll see how it works.
We'll have a follow-up to do the coffee taste test, see which one is better, which one is healthier. All right?
All right, guys, make your comment below. If you're already drinking Rise Coffee, you should let us know that this was not sponsored by them. They have given $. This was a conversation we actually had. And make sure you subscribe for more. Leave me 5 stars in a review. And most importantly, come back next time.
Thanks, guys.
By the way, friends, don't miss my brand new coaching program at answers.realestate, where you can have access to Leigh Brown, submit your questions, have them answered, meet like-minded professionals, have an entire library to help you build your business no matter what happens in the market. Get signed up today. I promise you'll be glad you did. So if you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell, and catch another amazing episode by clicking above. Crazy Shit in Real Estate is also available in all of your normal podcast apps. So if that's where you like to hang out, go find me, click subscribe, and most importantly, leave me a review that says you think I'm awesome, my guests are awesome, or this content is just exactly what you were looking for. And then, by the way, if there's something you need, you want to learn about something, you can comment below anytime. You can also send me a direct message if you need to remain anonymous. No judgment. But anyway, I'll only judge if you forget to subscribe and click. I'll see you next time.